Hello and welcome to this tutorial or guide on how to import and export COLLADA files using IWTE tool for Rome Total War or Rome Total War Remastered. So we're all aware that there are still some 3dsMax users around here who prefer 3dsMax like myself over Blender. But if you have Blender, you can just ignore this tutorial. But as I'm mainly using Max, I think it's good to have an explanation on how to use the new tooling system for 3dsMax. So in order to use COLLADA files, we need to be sure that you have a correct installation of 3dsMax installed. Because we need to use the openCOLLADA tool, which is an open source project, and it allows you to import and export COLLADA files. And of course 3dsMax has a custom default COLLADA extension format, but that one doesn't work with the Autodesk COLLADA, it's called. It doesn't work with IWTE. So in this guide I want to be sure that you can follow me, and therefore I will I will use chapters in the video. So I hope that will help you. So first of all, you need a 3dsMax, of course, and for that we also need the openCOLLADA plugin. I'll have this link in the description. It has the releases, and you can see here that the versions are from 2016 until 2021, I believe. Yes. So in my case, I'm using 3dsMax 2018, and I will show you how to install this plugin. So first of all, you download one of the release versions, because the debug versions are for debug mode, and release versions are mostly optimized for direct usage. So you click on this link and it will download a zip file. Be aware that you need to download the correct file for your own 3dsMax version. So when you open it, you get these 5 files. And you might think, what do I have to do with that? Well, you just go to your 3dsMax installation directory. For me, it's on the C program files Autodesk 3dsMax 2018. And then you go into the plugins folder. And as you can see, I already have the plugins here. So when you successfully copy the files, you can start 3dsMax. And you can check whether your plugin is installed by just going to File, Import, and then check for the files of type if you have an openCOLLADA plugin here. If you don't have it, you probably installed it differently or wrong. So try to reproduce the steps I did. So now we need to use IWTE, and this is a tool created by wilddog. As you can see here on Total War Center, I will also provide this link in the description. And basically this tool will allow you to convert the CAS models used by Rome Total War and convert them into openCOLLADA format. You can then also export the COLLADA files and open them in Blender if you want, but that's not what we want to do today. So you download the latest IWTE version here. So if you click on the link, it will bring you to a download page. I have a lot of different versions installed, mainly because there are still releasing updates. So, actually, a couple of weeks ago, the newest version was introduced. But when I have a stable version, I really don't want to update it unless it's really necessary. So have a look here if you already have a version, and install it if you see that some bugs you have are fixed. So in my case, I have different installations here, as you can see. For my current mod, I'm using this version, and if you install extract files to a certain directory, you can open it and click on the IWTE executable here. So you will see this black window pop up. This is just for debug information, and then you get the GUI here. And for this tutorial, we only need two menus here. So there is this model files at the top, the title bar, and then you go to CAS models, and then you see here 4 options you might need to use. So the first one is if you want to convert a CAS mesh into COLLADA, and then you have the COLLADA to CAS, and then you have the CAS mesh to COLLADA directory, so it will convert all CAS files in this certain directory into COLLADA, and it's the same for COLLADA into CAS. Why is this important? Because for Rome Total Remaster, the game requires multiple lots to be in place. So yeah, it's quite useful if you can use them in a directory. And I will show you how I do that. In my opinion, I just create a folder here. In this case, my Israel mod, and I have a subfolder for buildings and for units. So well, let's just come here in a bit. First, I want you to show that there's also my GitHub, and I have different 3dsMax scripts and improvements. So the first one is optional, which is the COLLADA export multiple lots. If you have a model ready, maybe a building or a skinned version, you can run this script. I have it on my startup, so I will show you how it works. Let's just open random units. So this is just a unit here, and when you have the script in your startup folder under the utilities, you can now see an option COLLADA multi-lot export. And what this tool does is from the model you created, it gives you this panel, and it will automatically create a second, third and fourth lot of the model. It will use the Pro Optimizer tool for that, and all the stuff will be taken into account. So if you have a lot 0 with multi-weighted bones, like probably I have it here on the head. Yeah, you can see I've multi-weighted here. That needs to be removed for lots 1, 2 and 3. So the tool already does that for you. So that's quite easy. That's always what I use in my case. So although it's a bit work in progress, but it does what it does, and I use it for all my tools and mods. So it's quite easy to install. Just in the same directory we just were. For Autodesk, just go to your Autodesk location, go to your version, then go into scripts, and then go into the startup. Or if you don't want the script to be started up automatically, you can just place it into script and run it when you need it. So that's about that script. So I will show you how I used it on my in my mods. But the first thing I want to make clear for you is you always need to use the openCOLLADA importer and exporter if you are using IWTE. Because previously we used the CAS import script, which I improved, and you can also download from the GitHub, which now enables importing and exporting animations in these scenes. So the difference between importing a CAS using the old script and using the COLLADA plugin is that it's all turned around 180 degrees. So I took advantage of that and modified the script so you can now create animations using the old scripts while still using COLLADA scenes. So the difference in the COLLADA scene is that you have an armature bone as the parent and not the scene root bone. So the first thing I want to make clear for you is that you can't expect to import a CAS model using the old script and then export it with the COLLADA tool and run it through IWTE. That doesn't work. If you want to use a model from the OG game or from the remastered base game, you first need to convert it from CAS to COLLADA, which I will show you. For example, I have the tool ready, I guess. Or did I close it? I guess I closed it. So you first go CAS to COLLADA. You then search for a certain unit. Well, in this case, unit Roman Legionary High. It's a CAS file copied from the remaster base file, and it will then create some tasks, but that won't be necessary in this tutorial. And as you can see, it will write the file into the to COLLADA directory inside here. So now that you have IWTE and you converted the CAS model to COLLADA, you can import it in Max. So be sure that when importing the COLLADA file, today unit Roman Legionary High, yes. Be sure that when you check this button, the files of types, that you click the openCOLLADA plugin. Otherwise, the game will default to the Autodesk COLLADA, and I will show you what happens then. You will get this pop-up with a lot of options which will be useless for you, and it will take a lot of times. It will eventually render it, but if you export it using this tool, it won't work in IWTE. So when you have the plugin enabled and you import it, you need to select the openCOLLADA, and then you only have no pop-up, and you're ready to go. So in 3dsMax, if you hit the F key, it will bring you to the front view. You will notice that you now see the back of the units, and that's normal. Like I said, the units are in 180 degrees rotated, and you need to keep it that way. So we just have to get the feeling on how to work with COLLADA files in 3dsMax. But eventually you will get the hang of it. So now you can model the file, like removing stuff, adding stuff, you know, the basic stuff you always do in 3dsMax. And when you have your model ready, you then go to the export and you do the same. You go to your directory where you want it. So in my case, I would place it in the units folder here I created. And be sure to set also the exporter as openCOLLADA. Then you can give it a file name, like Legionary No Spear. You will get this option, and be sure to have these settings on. I have no problem with these settings, so I will just keep it that way. And now we have the file placed and saved under the folder we just created. So we have the unit folder here, and now we see the Legionary No Spear. And you might notice that the export and import of the COLLADA files is quite fast in comparison with the old import or exporter tool for the CAS files in 3dsMax, which was quite slow and would hang the application until the process was done. So yeah, well, that's about the the CAS to COLLADA and COLLADA to CAS and using IWTE. Of course, you would need to run the scripts here. I haven't opened now twice, but you can simply go to your the COLLADA to CAS mesh and select the unit you created. In this case, I can do the 1 megabyte file I created, and it will now have the file, the changed file into CAS, placed in the folder from COLLADA. And as you can see here, there's a little different here. Actually, it was a different name. Yeah, it was the phalanx. So if you have a multi-skin model, IWTE gives you a lot0 underscore match file, which is the multi-weighted version of your model, and also a lot1, which has all bone points set to 1 for each vertex. So you can use that as your lot1 and then create your lot2 and 3 yourself. But I will now show you what my tool does. So in this case, I have this model, it's ready, and I then save it. You don't need to save it, but if you save it, it will give it a default name. So the name would be Roman Legionary No Spear. And now when I go to my custom script you installed previously and you reopen Max, you would see that you can select this from the Utilities tab. And here you see different settings. So this export button here, you have the minimum amount of vertices to apply the Pro Optimizer. For example, if you have a plane or a shoulder pads, I can show you the statistics in this view to help you a bit. So the shoulder pads only have 32 vertices by default. So this is the threshold, so only every object here above 150 vertices will be Pro Optimized. Because you have a very low object and it will be Pro Optimized to 25%, you will see a lot of gaps in between. So you can increase this or lower this, whatever you prefer. The default is 150. And then you have a skinned and a static option. Because, well, for the skinned units like soldiers, you need to use the skinned. And for static buildings, I will show you in a second, that you don't need a bone structure at all, so you can just use that option. But now we have unit and it's skinned, multi-weighted, I will leave, not the head. Well, I believe I'm using an OG file then. Well, anyway, I can simply click on this button and it will give me a pop-up at the location, the latest position I created it. And it will give you the default name of the scene you named it. And you can only save it as openCOLLADA. So this tool doesn't work if you do not have the openCOLLADA plugin installed. It automatically searches for it. So to prevent crashing, I disabled this option. So it only works when you have the plugin correctly installed. So now when you click save, you will see it will do some stuff in the background. And when it says all lots exported, you go to the directory you created the units. In this case here. I believe I placed it here. So there are some random issues sometimes when the tool doesn't save the files, but that's a 3dsMax issue, not a script issue. So if you have, it actually did create the files. Interesting. Do I need to refresh it? Well, so yeah, you might need to restart the application sometimes, but generally it will just work fine. And of course, when I have a tutorial, it doesn't work. So we just open a recent file here. So this is a multi-weighted lot, as you can see. So I will just export this instead. So we run my COLLADA export script, and it will be named Israel Heavy Phalanx Variation 1. And now we can see it's actually exporting the files here. And you see that you have a lot 1, a lot 2, and a lot 3. And the lot 1, they are smaller, and the lot 1, 2, and 3 are also single weighted. So in this case, I will just remove this. Now we have 4 different COLLADA files, and now we can use the directory COLLADA to CAS mesh directory option here. We go to the Israel mod units, and then we click the select the map. And in my case, I created the done directory inside the units folder, and then it will just convert all them to CAS file. So Israel Heavy Phalanx. So also in this case, you can see that because we also have a lot 0, that IWTE also created a lot 0 CAS and a lot 0 or lot 1 CAS, which is the non multi-skinned version of the lot 0. But as you can see, it didn't do that for the lot 1, 2, and 3. So you can ignore this one because the lot 1 also has reduced vertices. So yeah, you can just then copy these CAS files into your game directory and use them. Basically what I do in my, I need to open my mods folder. I will show you my DMB setup. It might help you a bit because the files are a bit weird, a bit like all this extra information. But in my case, I only copy all these lines. You'll have a model for each ethnicity and use the same model for all variations, also for the no variation model. And then of course you can have multiple variations models and use that in your edu file. But that's another story. So what about buildings? Well, buildings is actually the same process, and I will show you how that works. I will use Solomon's temple here, but I believe this is a big template, so it will have to load a bit. Yes. So let's open the correct version here. So we have Solomon Temple walls. So this is actually a building, and as you can see, it has quite a lot of vertices. And yeah, so you can use the same tool here, just go to static because you have no bones in this scene. Click export and do the same procedure for buildings. It's not that hard. Yeah, what do I else need to explain? Well, I have the improved script. Actually, I modified it today and uploaded it to my GitHub so you can use it instead. So the old CAS import export script, I modified it so to allow animations into COLLADA files. So in this case, I go to import, check openCOLLADA and go to a model I created. For example, the Israel Heavy Phalanx var lot 0. The textures are messed up, but I don't mind that anyway. Just believe there's a texture here. So now we use the old improved scripts, which is called CAS importer exporter improved on my GitHub. And just place this CAS file or script into the startup folder of your 3dsMax, and you also see it under your utilities tab. So now we can also import animations here. For example, die forward. It will also adjust the frame rate to 20, which is the same as in the game. Yeah, and you can also export animations. So to show you, I will mess up this leg. So this leg, let's do something different with that. So he's dying. This leg needs to be broken somehow. Alright, let's mess it up even more. Well, I guess this is messed up already. Alright, so we have a new animation now for this leg. Completely wasted, but I will just show you how it works. You can now also export this animation now with the COLLADA texture and lag mess up. So exported the animation, and to be sure we can import the die forward test again, which is just a default animation, as you can see. And now if you import the lag mess up, the lag is messed up again. So this makes your life a little bit easier. You don't need to import a CAS file and then do animations, but you can simply use your COLLADA scenes for animations, which is most of the time better because you have multi-weighted body parts in your lot 0 environment. So yeah, do I have another example in my Lord of the Rings mod? I guess I have a lot of examples here. For example, troll. So this is a random troll, lot of vertices, which is of course better to well, would take like 5 minutes if you use the old export plugin, but now with COLLADA you can and IWTE you can do it faster. So this is a specific skeleton, as you can see, it's like an elephant, but as you can see it has the human pelvis. So this is a great my custom animation. So let me check. Where do I need to? Lord of the Rings. Remaster. Troll. Walk. Well, it really doesn't like that, as you can see, but probably that animation is broken. Isn't this one not skinned? Yeah, this one is not skinned. Not really a good example if your model is not skinned. Well, Anyway, as you can see, the animation is playing in the background on the bone, so it's functioning properly. Yeah, well, I guess that's it. So to wrap it all up, first you need to install the openCOLLADA plugin from the forks here. Go to the Max version, update in 2020. Be sure you have a Max installation from 2016 to 21. But I tested it on 16 and 18 and it works fine. Then go to my GitHub and download the improved CAS importer and also the multi-weighted, the multi-lot export. So you only need to modify one lot. But if you still want to do it on your own, you're of course free because you can simply use the default exporter from openCOLLADA. And don't forget to also use IWTE. So yeah, well, thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments if you want some more information on how to mod different aspects. Because yeah, I've got quite a lot of experience now after all these years, so perhaps it might be useful for you as a new modder or a quite experienced modder to learn about some specifics. Keep in mind though, I won't be doing any Blender videos because I hate Blender and that's why I still use Max. Thank you for watching and hopefully I will see you soon.